Hey, this is Scott Bonsai. Today we're taking a look at the Sony ZV-1. Thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for letting me try this camera out. In this video I'll be showing you tests I did to compare the camera to the Canon EOS M50 that I personally own. I was curious to see how they compare together. I'm sure a lot of you would be as well, because they're generally nice content creation cameras. I'll also be showing you photos from the ZV-1 that I took. It's lesser focused on topic with this camera considering the main marketing on it, but I was curious to see if it is a good photography camera. Let's get the basic specifications out of the way first. It has a 20.1 megapixel 1-inch sensor. It's pretty large. It's larger than most phones have these days, but it is smaller than APS-C and other large format cameras. So what you do have there is a 2.7x crop. An APS-C sensor is a 1.6x or 1.5x crop. And this sensor does have 315 phase detect points on there. That's an important feature in a camera these days, is that phase detect on the sensor. The ZV-1 has a built-in lens. You can't change it. It's 9.4 to 25.7 millimeters. The equivalent on there in full frame terms is 25.38 to 69.39 millimeters. So it's not really a 24 to 70 as they say, but you get around that. It will focus down to 5 centimeters or 0.17 foot on the wide end. The aperture goes from f1.8 to f2.8, but when you slightly change the zoom, it will quickly go to a smaller aperture. There is a fully articulating touchscreen in the camera. However, just keep in mind the touchscreen does not work through the menus. It only works with touching to focus. It is 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. The camera has an MP-BX1 battery. It's pretty common in the Sony cameras. You'll get around 260 photos per charge, or about 45 to 75 minutes of video. You'll definitely want to be buying multiple batteries for this camera, but keep in mind you can charge through the USB port. One of the most interesting features of this camera is that direct 3-capsule microphone on the top, and you can also use the accessory that is included to reduce wind noise. But it does have the 3.5mm microphone port, which is great, along with micro HDMI and USB, which is a micro type, and the multi-interface hot shoe. There are some Sony accessories like a small microphone that you can attach to the hot shoe, and you don't need a cable, which is nice. Another nice feature of this camera is the built-in neutral density filter that allows you to use the larger apertures in bright sunlight. You can use it for other situations like trying to get long exposures. It does have 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.1 built into the camera. I did try out their wireless app. It's the Sony Imaging Edge Mobile on Android. It's pretty quick to connect through the QR code method. So you just take a picture with the app and it sees that QR code. I think it's one of the quicker ways to connect a camera. The biggest omission with this app, and the reason that I would not suggest it to anyone if you're focused on using an app, is that you can't do touch to focus through the app to control your focus point. I don't know why Sony doesn't have this feature in there. It's a really important feature. But besides that, it does have a lot of ways to adjust the camera through the app. The important video formats that this camera can do is 4K at 30 frames a second maximum, and 1080p at 120 frames a second. It can go all the way up to 1000 frames a second, but don't expect high quality in those modes. It's got the tally light. So you can see the light on there. Here is the camera with no steady shot at all. Just holding it as it is. You can see what it looks like with the focal length. We're fully wide. And walk a little bit. Here is standard steady shot mode. See how it looks. Just stand here for a second. Now we are in active steady shot mode. See how it looks. Gonna stand here for a second. Before you get started with the camera, there are 2 settings I think you should change so that you can get the full use out of it. First is turn off the face smoothing feature. It is odd that that feature is on by default. It will mess up your videos, the look of them. Maybe you might like it, so at least try it, I guess. You probably want to turn on the high heat recording mode. This is necessary for recording longer clips. You'll basically get no time limit on the recordings when that mode is on. In my testing, I didn't have any issues with heat. The camera didn't say that it was overheating. I went out in the bright sunlight for my video tests. Didn't have any issues. Another little quirk with the camera you want to just keep in mind is that you need a UHS 2 SD card to record 4K video. This is the thing with Sony that I've noticed with all of their cameras. Because I can use the M50 for my other cards in their 4K mode and it does use a lot of data, it's just a weird quirk for Sony. Let's go over some of the ergonomics I feel are important. This camera is uniquely designed to be a content creator's camera. It's a shift away from photo cameras. You can of course use it for photos, but it's more focused on a mixture of photo and video. You do have that fully articulating screen that works really well in photos, but also great for video. It has a nice large record button for video on the top. And of course the microphone setup in this camera is really focused on good quality audio, especially with that add-on that makes it great for outdoors and it reduces wind noise. Using the camera towards you in a vlogging or selfie situation can be a little difficult because the touchscreen does not work through the menus. All you can do is touch to focus, so if you want to actually change some of the settings when the camera is facing towards you, it'll be a little difficult. You will have to learn where the buttons are on the camera and get used to pressing them when you're not looking at them. The tripod socket is in an odd position. If you do panoramas or things like that, you won't be perfectly in line with the lens, and if you use a quick release of some type, you'll have to remove that every time you want to access the battery or memory card. You could probably transfer things through the USB port, but keep in mind it is a USB 2 connection, so you won't get more than 35 megabytes a second or so for transfer speeds. If you're transferring large 4K videos, that will take a while. This camera has a ton of features. I'll just go over a few really quickly that I found interesting or useful. It does have interval shooting, so that's great for time lapses and stuff of that nature. Now, one feature that I've seen in a lot of Sony cameras that can be useful at a higher level has time code in the camera. What you can do there is set up multiple cameras. If you do different angles and you want to have them synced more easily in post, use that timecode feature. With that feature, there is a user bit that allows you to label the cameras or label certain scenes. This camera does have clean HDMI, which is good for streaming. You do need a capture device, but it is in there. I did not test it, so I don't know the exact specifics of how it works. The camera has memory save slots, which is a nice feature. You can set up the camera different ways and push it into each memory save and switch between those very quickly. I only had one battery and I had a single day to try out this camera. This video was possible thanks to the charging through USB. All throughout all of my clips where you can just see the camera, you'll see that the port is attached and I was charging the camera while using it. Let's go over some use cases for this camera. First is a vlogging camera. This is the main marketing on the camera. Sony thinks that it'll be great for vlogging, and in general it is, but with the lens on the wide end, I think it's a little bit too narrow, especially when you add the good stabilization, which is the active steady shot. In there you lose a lot of the frame, and add on to the lens isn't that wide to begin with. However, if you do use a selfie stick, you can get that far away from your face so that it isn't just your face in the frame. This will all depend on what you are comfortable with. One thing to consider if you do use a selfie stick and you use the built-in audio, it won't be as good if you have it further away from your face as it would be closer. It's just how audio works in general. It'll pick up more of your voice when it is closer to you. Of course, you can consider external audio or using a lapel microphone from the microphone port to your shirt, something like that, which is probably the best solution for quality audio. The next use case is a photo camera. It's pretty simple with photos. If you leave it in automatic focus mode, you can tap the screen and cancel with the button right here, the main button that's blank. And it works just fine. You can look at the photos examples I have here to see if you think the image quality is good enough for you. I actually think this is a pretty nice photo camera. It has a fully articulating screen, so you can get different angles very easily. There is no viewfinder, which is the biggest negative for photography, but I think you just go with their standard RX 100 series cameras in that case. With the screen in super bright conditions, you will have some difficulty seeing the screen, and if you use polarized sunglasses, it'll be difficult with that camera. I think there is some issue with that, but the glasses I used were just simple tint, so I didn't have any issue seeing the screen. Overall, it was really pleasant to use for taking photos. I just tapped the screen and it has great autofocus. I was shooting full RAW plus JPEG. The camera felt very quick. There were some instances where it would lock up if I took a lot of frames in different menus and things, but that would depend on the card that you're using, and just in general, I didn't have any issues with how prompt it felt. For people that deal with cold winters, they need to wear gloves. This isn't going to be a great camera for that because the buttons are very small. In general, I think it's just not going to be a great. The last use case I'll go over as a general content creation camera. So a mixture of photo and video, Instagram, Twitter, whatever else. I think it's a great camera for this. It's full featured situations like super dark conditions. There are definitely better options, but this is a full all-in-one solution. You have a multitude of microphone options. You can use the internal audio, which is pretty nice in my opinion. Product shots, you have that special feature to move a product in front of your face or away and it quickly changes focus. Really great for that type of stuff. Let's go over the video tests I did with this camera. There are a lot of them, and I compared it to the M50. Standard IS in the lens for the Canon and standard for the ZV-1. An idea what they look like. Can't really tell. Active steady shot along with the standard digital plus lens stabilization in the Canon. See what they look like. Try to keep myself in the frame. The Canon is at 15 millimeters. The Sony is at whatever its widest. I have the Sony at the standard stabilization, which is the middle one. You get an idea of what 1080p looks like on both of them. If you don't want to burn through your memory cards, using the Sony at 1080p, be fine. So, just get an idea of what it looks like. I'm sure both of these are good for just stationary stuff, but the Sony appears to be nice with the full stabilization and movement. We'll see actually in the video files once I check them on a computer, but I'm not sure. The Sony is at its widest. The Canon is at its widest. No stabilization. Just get an idea what they look like. They're both at 1080p. I can switch the Sony to 4K once we do this clip. Check it out. But that's what you can expect. 1080p, no stabilization. Again, we're in no stabilization mode. 4K, I put the Canon in 4K, we'll see how it works. No stabilization, both cameras in 4K mode. Canon at 15 millimeters. For that, I'm gonna stand still for a second. See how it looks. Test 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. Lens stabilization on the Canon, no digital for the Canon in 4K. Get an idea of what it looks like. That should not give any type of crop for the Canon, so it's definitely a benefit to have that on in 4K with the Canon if you would ever want to actually use it in this situation. Okay, here's a test with the same microphone on each camera. These are still at auto levels. See how it sounds with both of the cameras together. Test 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. I'm using the Boya BY-MM1 microphones on both cameras. See how it sounds. I don't know. It is auto levels. Usually I set manual levels on the camera, but in this case, we're just going auto. Simple enough. Both cameras it's at 1/60 of a second, f3.5, ISO 320, and auto levels on the microphones. Have the same cables, same microphones, both cameras. I do think the Sony ZV-1 compares nicely to the Canon EOS M50. Now it is more expensive, it is a new camera. In general, the M50 does have the larger sensor, but video-wise, I think the Sony ZV-1 is a lot nicer. It has more modes, has higher quality 4K by a long shot. If you don't care about interchangeable lenses and you care about size, the ZV-1 is definitely the better buy in this case. If you do want to use mostly 1080p, They're definitely a better match in that case. Overall, it's a very impressive camera given the feature set, the size, and the unique ergonomics on the ZV-1. It's a step up from smartphones. You get a larger, higher quality sensor with a nice large aperture lens that does allow you to zoom a good decent amount. It's a great content creation camera, a mix of hybrid photo and video work. Overall, a really nice package. It's not a cheap camera, but it will do a lot for you. Again, thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for letting me try this camera out. I'm Scott Photography Bonsai. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. That helps me out a lot. Likes and shares help out a lot as well. Thanks again.